Hello guys, welcome back to the channel for another cook, and today we're doing a bit of a family favourite in this house anyway, and it is Swedish meatballs and gravy. So we're going to make the meatballs up from scratch. We're using beef for these ones. You can do all sorts of meatballs. These ones are beef. So we're going to make them up. We're going to cook them over the top of a skillet with gravy mixture in there. So we're going to catch all the drippings and the flavours from the meatballs as we smoke them. Then we're going to finish it all off by thickening up that gravy, getting it all mixed together, and tucking in, having a good feed. So not too much prep for this one. You're going to grab yourself a nice big bowl, and for the meatballs then, we're starting off with breadcrumbs. So this is 3 rounds of bread made into crumbs. Don't know what that is in grams. It's 3 slices of regular white bread. So add them into the bowl, and we need to make what they call a slurry. Not the most pleasant thing to be putting into food, especially if you're from Northern Ireland, you know what slurry is. But we're going in with milk. So this is about half a cup of milk. Add that into the breadcrumbs. And grab yourself a fork or a spoon or something and just mix that around to coat the breadcrumbs in the milk, and it will all absorb up and turn into a rather unsightly looking mixture. But that's where all the flavour is going to soak up in these meatballs. It's going to soak up the fat from the mince and a few of the other bits and pieces we're going to add in here. Okay, then once all the milk has been absorbed, we're going to go in with some seasonings. We have pepper, allspice and nutmeg. Not a lot, just enough to give that flavour throughout the meatballs. So we'll go ahead and mix that in too. It's easier at this point to add them in because once it's evenly mixed through the mash or the slurry, you can get it through the meatball mixture a little bit easier. Right. Next up then, we're going in with about half a tablespoon of Dijon mustard. Again, just mix through. Alright, then the final thing in at this point is the onions. So this is half a medium sized onion, just finely diced. Again, you don't want massive chunks in there. Okay, at this point, get rid of the fork, put a glove on. Going to go in with our beef mince. This is about 1 kilo. So just add that into the bowl, and then in with 2 egg yolks. Again, just add a little bit more moisture in there and act as a binder, and just give everything a good mix together. Okay, so once you have your mixture all mixed together, you just start forming these into meatballs. Now, Swedish meatballs are traditionally a little bit smaller than your traditional Italian meatball, so you're looking something a little bit smaller than a golf ball. So something around that size there. They also make quite a few meatballs out of this mixture, but they are quite small, so you generally will put quite a lot into one portion. So we'll go ahead and get these all made up, and then we'll talk about how we're going to start the gravy before we get these onto the barbecue. Okay, so once your meatballs are formed, we need to go ahead and start the base off for the gravy before we actually put the meatballs on to smoke. Because we're going to do these, I've got the accessory rack into the KJ and my large skillet on to preheat. We're going to make up a bit of a base using beef stock and a roux. That's going to catch all the drippings in whenever we put the meatballs over the top of them on the cooking rack. So preheat the skillet and add in about 60 grams of butter. And once that's completely melted, you can add in about 3 heaped tablespoons of flour to make a roux. And cook that roux off for a few seconds just to take the rawness out of that flour, and then you want to go in with your beef stock. So I've got about 1 litre of beef stock going in there. It's cold beef stock, so whenever the roux is hot, to avoid any lumps, then you go in with a cold beef stock and give it a little bit of a whisk just to mix the roux through it. We're going to leave that be because that's going to slowly catch the drippings and start to thicken up and reduce down a little bit as the meatballs are smoking. Go ahead and get the meatballs onto the KJ. Temperature is sitting around 200, so you want it relatively high. Traditionally, meatballs would be fried in a skillet or a frying pan, so we want to build up a sort of high heat crust on the outside of them. But we'll put them on over the top of the skillet so everything drips in. We're adding in a little chunk of cherry wood in there too, just to add a bit of smoke flavour to them as well. Then once they're ready, we'll come back and we'll show you how to finish the gravy off. Okay, our meatballs have all reached between 68 and 70. Like to lift them up just a little bit early to avoid them drying out, because we're going to add them back in here now. You want to keep an eye on your gravy. So this is the kind of consistency you want it to boil down to. That's reduced down by more than half there. If you think it's getting a little bit too reduced down while the meatballs are still cooking, you can add a little bit more beef stock in there. At this point, that's caught all the drippings from our meatballs. So we're just going to go ahead, give it a season, a bit of salt and pepper. I'm going to add in some double cream. All mix around. And I'll go back in with our meatballs. Just toss them around, coat them all in the gravy. And that's it really. At this point we'll go ahead and lift it off. Okay, so I've plated them up the traditional way, served with mashed potatoes. So it's time to dive in and give them a go. Meatballs still super juicy inside. That's why you lift them off that little bit early, just to avoid them overcooking whenever you put them back into the sauce. And gravy is so rich. That's what comes from reducing down that beef stock and really concentrating the flavours in it, plus catching the drippings. There's loads of seasonings in the meatballs, and as it's cooking, those are dripping out into that gravy and flavouring it, and it's just getting more and more intense as it goes on. And you just add the cream in there, richens it up a little bit. Richens, is that a word? It is now. The meatballs have stayed super soft. Nice colour on them. Because of all that steam going on in below them, they don't quite get as dark as you would maybe want them to. And they can be deceptive as well. They don't look like they're cooking as fast as they are. So keep an eye on them in temperature wise. It says 68 to 70. I would lift them off because they do continue to cook up a few degrees once you put them into the hot gravy. So if you want to give this a try, link is in the description for the recipe. Give it a go, tag me in your photos and let me know how you got on with it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.